Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. On behalf of the third APA conference in EvalFest 2022, I welcome you all to this very interesting session. The session title today is Prospects of M&E Education in the Asia Pacific. Continuing with the earlier session on M&E education, we want to understand what the prospects are as we move forward. We'll be looking at both the current state and the future prospects, especially in the opportunities, the weaknesses, the strengths of M&E education in the Asia Pacific region. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the chair of the session, Dr. Sham Singh. Dr. Singh is an associate professor in social sciences at IRMA. He's been associated in various capacities with UNICEF, the World Bank, NABARD, and various state and central governments. He is currently an advisor to the Rural Development Department, Government of Jharkhand. He is also an expert committee member of the Government of India for the National CSR Award 2018 and 2020. He is part of the second National Common Review Mission on rural development for the Government of India. He's been a scholar in residence at the University of Antwerp, Belgium. And as said earlier, he teaches rural society and polity, monitoring and evaluation, and social network analysis at IRMA. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Sham.
Thank you, Navis, for the opening and generous introduction. Welcome everyone to this exciting panel that we are going to have in the next 1.5 hours. It's a panel, it's probably the first panel of its kind where we are discussing, the prospects for M&E, inclusion of M&E in the mainstream higher education systems in India, in particular, but definitely in Asia Pacific. That's what the topic is. The idea of this session came from the consortium that we just launched, half an hour before. We started, the discussion about a couple of months ago, and we thought that M&E is more than a set of skills. It's about evaluative attitude, approach, and that should not come only as a mid-career or early career, professional. Even the students can also learn in their degree courses. Therefore, we thought about launching a consortium, and one of the major objectives of this consortium is to promote and do the advocacy for inclusion of M&E in mainstream higher education system in the Asia Pacific. As we know that now we have last about a decade and a half, we have been discussing the development effectiveness, how and to what extent the investment made in the public sector and the development interventions have created impact and how they are benefiting people. And because of that debate, and also countries like India, where the development increasingly is being realized as a right, it's important that the people know what are the impact, what are the outcome that the huge investment, public investment made in the development sector, is what the benefit that it is providing. So in this case, it's thought that we need to go beyond the core skills, the idea of core skills in M&E, to the idea of basically inculcating evaluative attitude in the youth and in the students. In this context, we are organizing this panel, and we have a very eminent set of panelists for this panel, and a very good mix, bringing perspectives from a different side, a different dimension. And we really hope that at the end of the panel, we have a solid learning to go forward for all the M&E professionals and the community in general, and also for the consortium in particular. So without spending much time, let me go to the first speaker. Let me introduce the panel briefly. We have 4 speakers. Professor Sham Menon will start. He will speak about his experiences regarding the possibilities and challenges in starting a interdisciplinary course, practice-oriented course, just like M&E. Professor Yoko Ishida will speak on the state of M&E education across Asia Pacific and what are the prospects for mainstreaming M&E education. Third speaker would be Mr. Deepak Upadhyay, who would present the user's perspective, a very important perspective that he would bring to highlight the need for on-the-field M&E skills in development sector. And the fourth, we had Dr. Chamara, but because of some medical emergency, we are really thankful to Asela Kalgampitiya to really accept our request and talk about the course that the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Sri Lanka is running on monitoring and evaluation and the experience that the university is getting through this course. So let me go to the first panelist, Professor Sham Menon. Let me introduce him. Definitely in education sector, in the discipline of education, he needs no introduction, but still I try my best to introduce him to the participants. Professor Menon is basically, he has been working in curriculum studies, science education, teachers education. He was professor in the University of Delhi. He taught in Indira Gandhi National Open University, MS University, Baroda. He was the founder, vice chancellor, first vice chancellor of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Delhi, where he was instrumental in setting up several interdisciplinary programs in social sciences, humanities, and liberal studies. Professor Menon is currently the chairman of the commissions for reforms in higher education, Government of Kerala. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for taking time and spending some time with us from your busy schedule. He studied in University of Kerala and MS University Baroda. He was a Fulbright postdoctoral fellow at the University of Wisconsin Madison. He has been on the various task force on higher education set up by the International Association of Universities, UNESCO, and other international bodies. I welcome Professor Sham Menon to this session. Sir, please address the audience and deliver your talk.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sham. Good day. I thank Dr. Sham Singh and other colleagues at the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association for having asked me to join this panel today. It has given an opportunity to collect my thoughts on the subject of possibilities and challenges in starting a transdisciplinary and practice-oriented academic or professional program, such as one in monitoring and evaluation, particularly within the regulatory ecosystem for higher education in countries in this part of the world. In the areas of public policy and public administration, there is an ongoing major shift in the ethos from a conventional bureaucratic approach to a result-based management approach in which evidence-based decision-making and mid-course corrections have become important. Reforms in the realm of public policy are increasingly getting onto a project mode, and sustained resource support is increasingly getting hinged on evidences that are systematically and methodically gathered on an ongoing basis about the effectiveness of the various strands of reform initiatives. In this context, M&D has emerged as an important area of professional practice. Like all professional practices, M&D also has a science underlying it and a whole array of tools, methods, and analytical techniques. The methodology of M&D and the logic and assumptions behind it, drawn from theories and concepts that are integral to several branches of formal, natural, social, and behavioral sciences, and also the attitude make this area a distinct candidate for a discipline. There is an increasing sense about the need for a standard professional preparation regime in M&D as an area of practice. It is here that universities come into the picture. Universities, however, are relatively conservative and cautious when it comes to bestowing any area of professional practice the status of a high church discipline. There are gatekeeping mechanisms that are hardwired into universities' DNA, through which this caution is usually acted out. I speak on the basis of my limited experience in India, of having led a team of professionals and scholars in setting up a university of the social science and humanities, a process of reflection, trial, and error that lasted a whole decade. If MND is sought to be introduced as an integral part of university's mainstream, the following 6 questions are likely to be posed. These are questions customarily asked of those who champion for inclusion of a new area of practice as possible candidates around which academic or professional preparation programs are to be designed and developed. These questions address: 1, status of the area of knowledge or the discipline concerned; 2, the profile of the prospective faculty; 3, the location within the university space where such a program can be located; 4, profile of prospective students; 5, the nature of curriculum; 6, prospects of the graduates. Let me elaborate on these questions one by one in the context of MND. 1, about the status of MND as an area of knowledge. Is there a distinct body of literature in MND? Has the knowledge underlying this area of professional practice been processed through documentation, case studies, and research? Is there a fair enough consensus among professionals in the field about the contours of the knowledge structure underlying the practice of MND? Is there an acceptable level of conceptual and methodological coherence in such knowledge and its linkages with other cognate disciplines like management studies, economics, statistics, and so on, that lend theoretical lenses through which to make sense of this area of professional practice? Now, the second question is about faculty. Is there a discernible community of professionals who, through their training, research, and practice, have participated in reflective practice of MND and the construction of knowledge in this area, and can be its potential faculty? What kind of backgrounds do they come from? Are there distinct areas of specializations that are expected of these professionals who would be prospective faculty? The third question is about the location of the program within the university space. Where might be such a program be located within the university space? Which school, faculty, or department will best be its academic home? Will it be management? Will it be economics? Will it be public policy? Where will it be? Then the fourth question is about students. Can we identify a group of students who would find a master's program in MND worthwhile? What might be the entry-level competencies that the prospective students of such a program should bring with them when they come on board? What kind of disciplinary orientation must they have before entering into a program of MND? Fifth question is about curriculum. What might be the curricular structure of such a program? What kind of theory-practice balance will it have? Would this program be perched on cross-listed courses from other similar programs? Would it have a common foundation basket of courses that it shares with other programs? These are very practical questions many universities would like to know. And the sixth and the final question which people would ask is about the prospects of graduates. Where do the students go after graduating of this program, out of this program? What kind of placements are they likely to get? Are there possibilities of entrepreneurship and startups? What kind of vertical linkages can there be to the next level of studies, namely research degrees or further advanced training in certain specialized areas under MND? Once MND passes through these battery of questions successfully and is accepted as a possible program to be offered, some strategic issues emerge for the university. These are again very, very practical considerations for the university. What is strategically the best way of introducing MND, an area of professional practice, as a distinct university program or discipline? There are several alternative ways of introducing a practice area as a university program. One, as a postgraduate program like an MA or MSc in MND. Two, as a specialization in a professional or academic master's program like MBA or an MA in economics or MA in public policy. Three, as a postgraduate diploma program in MND. Four, as a stream or a pathway at the undergraduate level. And fifth, as a PhD program. A combination of approaches from the above list is sometimes found useful. For instance, as a first step, one may want to start a PhD program in M&D for those who have graduated out of masters in economics, statistics, public policy, project management, and so on. This is an appropriate initial step for introducing M&D as a university discipline, because a PhD program helps build the content, theoretical contours, and tools that characterize the area of knowledge. In my experience at Ambedkar University, this is the way we have followed in many cases. New programs we have started as a PhD program first and then the masters. Simultaneously, one may want to introduce M&D as a specialization or an elective in a master's program in economics, public policy, project management, MBA, etc. Along with this, one may start a postgraduate diploma program in M&D for those who have already completed a professional degree in management or engineering. In fact, starting a master's level program may be last step in this sequence, because that would assume that the area of knowledge has already a certain heft in terms of documentations, case studies, concepts, theories, tools, and analytical frameworks. In some of the countries of this part of the world, where the regulatory and accreditation architecture can sometimes be quite intimidating, there is perhaps a need for a certain kind of advocacy for promoting the idea of a university program in M&D. The present conference or the present consortium that was talked about just now should in fact be considered as one strand of an advocacy campaign. If regulatory institutions have to take notice of a new area, it will help to publish papers making use of highly regarded platforms. A series of roundtables and seminars also would help. It will perhaps be easier to introduce this new program in the first instance as a part of an academic program as opposed to a professional program, because in the latter, the regulatory bodies may take a lot of convincing. It is good to have a firm empirical basis for any advocacy. Suitably designed need appraisal studies will be very useful. Such studies must include eliciting responses of practicing M&D professionals and prospective employers. Universities, of course, should not be merely responding to already manifest market demands. They must be in the business of identifying emerging social needs and mobilizing demands around such areas. So it's a social need versus market demand dilemma. In a new and emerging area like M&D, even supply of a new set of trained professionals will help mobilize demand. That means the supply can mobilize demand. So it is important for universities to stay invested in such areas of knowledge and practice, even if the reception for such programs in the initial years may be somewhat lukewarm. Government will be a major employer for a prospective master's graduate in M&D. Corporate social responsibility organizations, as well as other non-profits, including the Section 8 companies here in India, that receive large grants from donor organizations, will have the need for employing professionals trained in M&D. These are a few thoughts about developing academic and professional programs in M&D and the challenges involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Menon, for very practical talk, because I think as a consortium, we need to really, get into the business of dealing with the policymakers and institutions and universities. I'm sure the specific 6 questions that you have posed are really important and probably give us a lot of scope to think and devise strategies accordingly. Also, the strategic issues that you have talked about, for university, how to begin, where to begin, and what kind of positioning that it requires for a new course like monitoring and evaluation. Thank you very much, sir, for a very enlightening address. I request the audience, we will have the question and answer at the end of the session when all the panelists have spoken. So please, you can have your question articulated with you, and you can then write it in the chat box and we will take it up. Or if you can raise your hand and we can take it up at the end. Thank you. Let me go to the next panelist. We have Professor Yoko Ishida. She is Director and Professor, Center for Study of International Cooperation in Education, Hiroshima University. Professor Ishida worked as a consultant of international cooperation for 25 years, a very rich experience that she carries. She conducted policy program and project evaluation for the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, ministries, NGO, etc. Currently, as a professor at the Hiroshima University and as vice president of the Japan Evaluation Society, she is engaged in capacity development of younger generation in Japan and in developing countries. Professor Yoko, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sham, for your kind introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Or good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yoko Ishida, Vice President of Japan Evaluation Society, JES, and Director and Professor of Center for the International Cooperation in Education at Hiroshima University. I'm very happy to join this session and deliver the presentation about the current state and prospects of M&A education in Asia Pacific, with focusing on Japan. So this is the contents of my presentation. And at first, let me show you 3 slides from the APEA survey report, Need Assessment for Academic Courses in M&A, published in 2021. So 41 organizations participated in the questionnaire survey, and 14 academic, 10 from public sector, 5 from private sector, 6 from NGOs and others. So the left-hand side pie chart shows that 8 organizations answered yes when asked if your organization offers any academic courses. When they asked if offering any training, so only 6 organizations answered yes. It is difficult to say that if these numbers are too small or not, but at least we can say it is not good enough. So the next slide shows that how they think about the needs of academic courses or training. So 29 organizations need short-term training, and 5 days is their most expected duration. And 27 organizations answered they need academic courses. In this case, 3 months is the most expected duration. The survey result shows that not more than 25% of the surveyed organizations conduct training or academic courses. However, almost 70% say they need to start training or academic courses. And the APEA survey report also identified what are needed to conduct training or academic courses. So first, training staff and technical resource persons, curriculum, and of course, materials, and affiliation with the university, and technical and financial support. They are very important. They are listed among the help needed. So considering the APEA survey result, let me introduce our experiences in Japan for you, just for your reference. So this slide summarizes the historical background of M&A education in Japan. The left-hand side, this side, the slide shows the historical flow of M&A related government or international ODA related policies in Japan. And the right-hand side is the M&A capacity development in Japan. So in 1981, here, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and JICA started separately. They started evaluation, but they were not yet systematically done. After JICA introduced the evaluation system according to DAC principles here. Sorry, not this one, but here, 1991. So the bigger attention was paid to the evaluation system. So now it's here. 2001, it's not the international one, but the domestic area. The Japanese government enforced the Policy Evaluation Act. All government agencies are required to conduct evaluation. So then the students, all schools, basic schools or high schools and universities are also required to conduct evaluations by law. Through the government policies and laws, the M&A system was established and developed. So then the needs of the quality M&E human resources rapidly expanded. In the year of 2000, Japan Evaluation Society was established. After 8 years, from 2008, Japan Evaluation Society JES started training courses of certified professional evaluation. So this is the outline of certified professional evaluation evaluator course offered by JES. It is 6-day training and 30 to 40 trainees. So it is very popular and always becomes full instantly when it's announced. And the trainees are expected to have evaluation experience, but it's not a must. If you are a JES member, you pay 77,000 yen, around 700 US dollar, plus exam fee 100 US dollar and text fee. If you are not a member, you need to pay more than 100,000 yen, around 1,000 US dollar. The course has 6 units, right? As shown here, introduction of evaluation, ethics, right? And basic theory, evaluation design, various analytical method, how to judge in the end, and introduction of special subjects and trend of various evaluation approaches, and finally concluded by prospects of evaluation. Those are the contents of the classes. So the sessions are delivered only in Japanese languages at this moment. Besides, before COVID-19, the face-to-face classes were given, but currently online sessions are provided. So JES members, including professional and practitioners, are the instructors. So this is the current state of academic courses in general in Japan. So there are no universities or graduate schools that specialize in evaluation in Japan. Evaluation-related training courses are provided as part of the academic or practical training of the subject area, such as health science, social welfare, business management, etc. at university. So some universities offer practical courses to develop highly professional human resources for planning, implementing, and evaluating policies, such as University of Tokyo, Kyoto University, or Waseda University. And some graduate schools offer courses in program evaluation, and some undergraduates focus on policy studies, teach policy evaluation subjects. So finally, let me give you some implications and prospects for M&A education. So government policy and evaluation market have a big impact, at least in Japan, on the needs of human resources development in evaluation. So there are more practitioners, including government officers, consultants, private company researchers, than academic researchers among the participants of the M&A training, which influences the curriculum and contents of the training courses. So in order to develop M&A capacity among younger generations, JES has concluded a memorandum of understanding with some universities to foster young and emerging evaluation, YEE. So government agencies, universities, private sectors give more priority to the improved accountability through evaluation to the Japanese people. So that is why those the training courses are done in in Japanese languages to address, to cope with the increased domestic market needs. It is hoped that the academic societies and universities collaborate in M&A human resources development and offering relevant courses and subjects to further advance the recognition of the importance of policy and program evaluation. So thank you very much. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Yoko, to tell us about not only the APR survey, what is the situation, even though the sample size was not quite large, but I think it does speak that there are institutions who actually are willing to initiate courses on M&E. Thank you very much for giving us the perspective from the Japan as well. I think the perspective that you have presented and also some of the tools, for example, JES getting in, in MOU with multiple universities probably will help other evaluation societies to take a clue and start working on this direction. So thank you very much, Professor Yoko.
Thank you.
Let me, there are questions already, so I request participants to write down all the questions. We'll definitely take all the questions right from the beginning. So please write your questions here in the chat box. Now let me go to the third panelist, Mr. Deepak Upadhyay, who will talk about the user's perspective. He is a user, so basically he deals with the Rural Development Department, the government of Jharkhand, and he's the state M&E state manager, state program manager M&E. So he will present the needs, everyday needs of in his roles and responsibility, how he deals with and what kind of needs, a skill set he needs. Deepak Upadhyay, Mr. Deepak Upadhyay is a state program manager of monitoring and evaluation in Jharkhand State Livelihood Promotion Society, which is a society created by the government. It's a part of the government of Jharkhand. Mr. Upadhyay is an alumnus of Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar, having 20 years of rich experience in development sector in managing community-based projects ranging from livelihoods, health, education, skill, enterprise development across 6 states in India. In the past, he has worked with various multinational and non-government organizations like UNDP India, UNV India, CARE India, KGVK, USA Martin Group, and Development Alternatives. With hands-on experience in working and networking with the government department, international NGOs, and the NGOs at the state and district level. He has been working with Jharkhand State Livelihood Promotion Society with, since May 2012 as a state program manager. I invite Mr. Upadhyay to deliver his speech.
Thank you, Professor Sham, and my sincere thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be here interacting with such a rich audience here. Also, my thanks to my previous speakers who spoke such a well about the importance of M&E education and how it can be started in Indian and Asia Pacific perspective. Thank you very much for that. So just to tell you that currently I am working as state program manager under a program called Day in Ireland. So for those people who are not acquainted with this program, so National Rural Livelihood Mission is one of the biggest or largest poverty elevation programs in the world that Government of India runs. And it's a universal program in the sense that all the rural areas of India are covered in this program. And the mandate of this program is to alleviate poverty through community institutional processes by working with community institutions, mobilizing women into self-help groups and federating them into different institutions, providing them financial inclusion services, livelihood support, and other convergence and marketing support. So since I'm not, due to some technical reason, I'm not able to run this from run these slides from my stage. So I would keep on requesting the organizers to keep moving to the next slide when I say next. So can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. So this is the basic framework of NRLM for people who are not acquainted with the program. So there are 3 pillars in NRLM. We can just move, click fuse. Yeah. So there are 3 pillars. The core is basically institutions of poor, where women farmers are mobilized into SHGs, producer groups, and they are then provided support through human capital support, where these institutions themselves, the leaders from these institutions who emerge in the villages, they are further trained and honed, their skills are honed by the program, and they support these institutions in accessing the benefits like financial support services, banking services, They are able to sell their produces to the market, and also there's a lot of focus on accessing different entitlements that is already a part of different other government schemes. And in order to support this, we have a dedicated support structure, starting from the village level till the state level and national level, where professionals who are MBAs, social work, who are from social work or from agriculture graduates or have done livestock, have expertise in livestock or marketing MBAs. So these kind of professionals, just from the village level till the national level, they are there who support these institutions, community institutions, as well as they also keep on capacitating these leaders or the community resource persons, we call them, who are cadres and who are in a way staff of these institutions, paid by them, monitored by them, and only supported by the program. So that's the overall framework of NRL. We will go to the next slide. Yeah. Thanks. I would just like to devote some minutes on this slide. I have experience in working in different sectors, and out of 20 odd years, I have mostly spent my time working with government. So out of 20 years, almost 30 years, I have spent working with government in different departments. So the change that I see in the development sector is a kind of a sea change that is happening in last or has happened in the last decade. Now the programs or the projects which are being implemented in any government setup is more intense. The programs are designed with lot of consultations, lot of learnings and study reports that come from different sectors, not from only India, from Asia Pacific even. In fact, the day NRL program which is started, it takes clues from UNDP's learnings when it had a program in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India. So the learnings from those programs only were integrated. So now the programs or the projects which are implemented are more intense. There are serious players who are in the field now. You would have seen the recent government policies that have come. So that basically has set up a kind of a platform where many serious players are now pitching in terms of they could be a consultancy organizations, they are bilateral agencies, they are government different departments, even larger NGOs and CSRs. So there are a lot of serious players who are there, and they are working with an object to deliver the results in a specific time frame. So these programs are not only loose programs; they are basically a kind of a water tight compartment. They are working in a water tight compartments where the delivery has to be done in a very corporate kind of a setup now. It also creates a lot of avenues for creating synergies between different departments and schemes. Now the programs in that sense are not working in silos, in the sense that even in RD department, rural development department, the program, NRL program also has a lot of convergence with NREGA, which is a wage-based employment program. We have convergence with other cooperative department, welfare department, forest department. So programs cannot be run in silos now, and they have to largely depend on the avenues and the benefits that other programs are creating for the community. The accountability has tremendously increased now. The programs, whoever is implementing the program at each level, there's a high level of accountability. I remember when I was in UNDP and I used to visit many departments in Jharkhand and outside, and I used to ask for some kind of a learning documents. It was very difficult to get some kind of a learning document from any department. But if you go to the departments now, they will talk about your outcome. They will have even outcome level budgeting that they prepare. Every year there's an intense annual action plan exercise that happens, and there are documents that even government creates and publishes on their websites that can help other future programs build on that. The monitoring and evaluation mechanisms specifically has seen a tremendous sea change there, and I will be talking about that detail in the next slide. Further, the beauty of all the programs is now the programs are more agile, in the sense that programs, if a longer run programs are there, long-term programs are there for suppose 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, each year there is a kind of a reflection that happens. And these reflections can only happen if the learning from the ground are fed into the program design. And the programs are open, specifically day NRLM program, NREGA program. They are so open that every year you will see there will be a new kind of element that is added. Even these projects or these programs also have some projects that are added to their dimension, and that is just because of the learning that keep on coming from different program implementation facets and challenges. Let's go to the next slide, please. So as the program or the development sector has itself seen a paradigm change, the monitoring and evaluation framework too has seen a tremendous change. So the result-based monitoring and framework is now encompasses more than input and output monitoring. So initially, when the programs were there in the government system, the only way to review the programs used to be to find out how much target was to be achieved. Was it achieved or not? So it used to be the fiscal monitoring of the progress and the financial monitoring of the progress. The previous program on which NRLM built on was the SGSY Swantianti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, and that program only talked about how many SHGs were there, how many SHGs were provided bank credit. That's all. But now, and what was the fund budget allotted? What was the expenditure? So that was being tracked. But now, if you look into the programs like NRLM, NREGA, even other programs in other departments also, there is a lot of key performance indicators that have been set for measuring the performance of each of the projects, for each cycle of the project, in fact. The process monitoring has been induced because a lot of programs have intense processes involved into that, and specifically the program that I'm talking about is a community-owned and community-driven program. So a lot of processes, protocols are there, and that is monitored regularly. New initiatives like community monitoring has been initiated, where programs of such a large scale, where we are working with around 3.4 million members or households in Jharkhand. So to objectively monitor them on a regular basis is a very difficult task. Unless we do a decentralized kind of monitoring, it's humanly impossible for people to manage it. Limitations of monitoring through MIS. So the community monitoring initiatives have been initiated, where we have more than 2,000 community monitors now who are in the field and who are monitoring the program. And then we have short-term thematic studies that feed into the annual action plans, and definitely long-term evaluations, which basically the baseline, midline, and endline. The second change that has happened is in the previous era, the monitoring used to be a centralized function. So people who used to sit at the headquarters, be it at the state capital or the national capital, they used to undertake the monitoring task. But now it has been totally decentralized. So each project, suppose NRLM2 has around 6 to 7 subcomponents, and all the project subcomponents have their own monitoring mechanisms there. There are specific people who are staff who are placed there and who are monitoring the program. At the implementation unit level also, like the district level and the block level, which is the lowest level of implementation, there also we have dedicated staff who are monitoring the program. So it's not only a centralized headquarter-based monitoring system where we look into the dashboards and we are able to take judgments, but it's rather a kind of a live dynamic process at the level where action is happening. Third was basically only professional. It used to be only professional driven. We used to think that monitoring can happen only if you have to if you are a person who is expert in monitoring and evaluation. But later on, we found that in our system, where large programs are there and a lot of funds are directly being transferred to the community, there is a kind of an system where community takes ownership of designing the program at a fair level in their own institutions. So that in that kind of a setup, only professional-driven, centrally located monitoring system may not work. So we have a community-based monitoring system where institutions they do a monthly grading. There is a cross visits of one institution, and the cadres of one institution visit to another set of institutions, and they share the report to us. Although we help them in drawing the sample and designing the questionnaire and analyzing the reports, but the field primary level information that comes and the cross-pollination of ideas that happens, that also fits into the instant learning process at the field level. Social audits are there happening in NREGA, where kind of an the community members themselves take it, and whatever flaws are brought out, decision is taken in front of them only. Then previous M&E was supposed to be considered as a program support function. We were considered as like finance and HR, procurement, and M&E, MIS. We were considered as program support function. But now there is a lot of change, and now we are program anchor and design functions. As I said in Day NRLM and in many other programs also that I implemented previously, there is an element of annual action plan, or the terminologies may be different, but there is an element where reflection and action happens every year. Now M&E is driving it. So M&E decides what should be the impetus for this year's program, and which elements needs to be triggered faster, and where are the areas where we are lacking. So where budget allocation should be higher. So we are not only supporting it, we are basically anchoring the program design and function. I request the presenter to go to the next slide. So what are the key attributes and skill sets required? I get an opportunity to visit many management institutes every year to recruit young professionals, which is an entry-level requirement for our organization. And when we go to these institutions, as we all know, that they don't have a dedicated M&E course for 2 years, but these are basically MBAs or social work or people from different disciplines, and we hired them. So when we had this lot, what kind of attributes and skills I look for when I want a person to be specifically fitting into the M&E domain. So there are few things that we see is basically the person should have a learning attitude, because the kind of learning growth that an M&E professional has is definitely much better than a person who is into one domain. Because at M&E, if we have right now, we have more than 7 sectors here. We are working simultaneously in 7 sectors. Even in livelihood sectors, there are different dimensions. One is skills, enterprise promotion, farm activity, livestock, non-timber forest produce. So when you are at the M&E, when you are doing M&E and you are in an M&E domain, the learning curve is much higher than the learning curve that a domain person will get in terms of if you want to understand the entire paradigm of a development sector. So in a 3 years span of time, when I see young professionals who join our domain and a person who joins a specific domain, so the kind of avenues that they are able to create when they leave our organization is much higher than what they do in a specific domain. So the only thing we require is that a person should be having a learning attitude, and the person should be willing to engage with the community. Unless you go to the field and learn from them, you cannot you will not be able to get the largest learning or the biggest chunk of the pie. The third is basically futuristic thinking. So when we see something or some processes happening, we should also be able to see what are the things that we can change in this to attain a better results. What are the bottlenecks that we are facing right now? And the skills that we try to impart when they are engaged here are basically interpersonal skills, analytical skills, forecasting skills, and writing skills. Many of these also come from machine learning or basically use of statistical packages. Definitely that is there. But more than that, if the person is able to observe what is happening in the field, if they are open to ideas and they are keen in learning, they can do it. So it's not about the skill set, but I said that it's about the ability and agility to set and reset own skills. As the program is a very dynamic process and everything is changing at a very faster pace, the person who is there implementing this program should also be able to reset his or her own skills. Even in the M&E arena, a lot of new theories are coming. So the person who is there should be able to do that. And the person's ability to observe the present actions with future perspective. Because whatever is happening, are we able to feed into the policy to give the version 2 model of what is happening? If the program is version 1 model, if we are able to predict the version 2 model, that's the job of M&E person, where will be able to position ourselves in the organization. Next, please.
Deepak ji, you can conclude. I think it's last slide.
Yeah, this is my last slide.
Thank you.
Yeah. So once we recruit the people, the things that we cover during their training courses is basically understanding a project cycle, theory of change, logical framework, result-based monitoring framework, understanding of community processes, some economic analysis, some kind of an action researches that we undertake, we expose them there. hands-on experiences on research methodologies. We also have tie-ups with many educational institutions, statistical packages, and report writing. And we also have an element of role and job shadowing, where we depute our person to a domain where they spend some kind of a time, sometimes substantial time there to learn their thing, and a lot of exposure and internship exposure is done. Internship is for the people who just joined us and they want to build career in America. So thank you all. That was from my side.
Thank you so much, Deepak ji, for this very important and enriching presentation, particularly the key attributes that you discussed. What you need in a M&E professional when when you recruit them, and how they can build their skills. So thank you very much for giving details about the user-based experience and the need that one look for in new M&E professional. Let me go to the last presentation by Mr. Asela Kalugampithia. He will talk about and he share his experience on running an academic program on M&E at the University of Srijayawardenepura, Sri Lanka. Asela is director currently in the Center for Evaluation at the University of Srijayawardenepura, Sri Lanka. He is a lawyer, and he's currently the president of both Sri Lankan Evaluation Association as well as the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. He has a Master of Evaluation from Germany. He has been working with monitoring and evaluation in the monitoring and evaluation field over 2 decades, including international organizations such as UNICEF, UN Women, UNFPA, ILO, CARE International, etc. He is an advisory committee member of IPDIT program. Asela, thank you very much for accepting our request to be the panelist. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Shamji. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Let me share my screen. This is about academic courses in Sri Lanka, especially related to the University of Srijayawardenepura. And we have a Center for Evaluation, M&E unit, monitoring and unit within the university, and M&E courses. Let me quickly go through. Very recently, actually last year, the university approved monitoring and evaluation unit, which is the first ever academic unit in a university for monitoring and evaluation in Sri Lanka. Actually, this will take. This is dedicated to coordinate and operationalize academic courses within the university. So far, there was no monitoring and evaluation unit, and this will operationalize monitoring and evaluation courses. Now in Sri Lanka, we have the postgraduate diploma in monitoring and evaluation. It was initiated in 2016. I will come to details. And also we are planning to start master degree in monitoring and evaluation, and also certificate course in monitoring and evaluation. So these courses will be managed by the monitoring and evaluation unit. Regarding the postgraduate diploma in monitoring and evaluation, this diploma was, as I mentioned, started or initiated in 2016 as 1-year course. This includes 9 modules. It covers introduction to monitoring and evaluation, results and theory of change, and evaluation design, evaluation methods and approaches, then qualitative and quantitative methods, and managing evaluations, ethics, standards, and global and national context in monitoring and evaluation. These are the modules covered. And for each module, we have module assignments and final exam, as well as a practicum. So practicum is an actual evaluation. The students have to conduct an actual evaluation and submit a report. So they have to pass assignments for each module and get 50% marks for the final exam, as well as pass the practicum to pass the postgraduate diploma. So that is the process. We have completed 4 batches. The 4th batch exam is next week actually, And we are about to start the 5th batch. The first day of the 5th batch, or the launch, is 19th March. So this is going very well. And even in the last presentation, it talked about skills and competencies for monitoring and evaluation. And this is very important. So we also have developed this course to address some of the competencies for monitoring and evaluation professionals. But of course, we have to address more in this course. I will come to that very soon. And as I mentioned about certificate course and master degree of monitoring and evaluation will be started. We have submitted this for the approval, because when we start a master degree, it should be approved by the University Grants Commission, first the university and the Grant Commission. So it is in process. It normally takes more than a year. So we expect to have the approval by end of this year. And certificate course is already approved by the university, and we are about to start it. And the modules are already developed. And we are finalizing curriculum, lesson plan, and materials for both courses. Of course, for the certificate course, we have a workshop coming in starting on actually 9th of March, 4 days residential workshop to finalize lesson plans and also to train lecturers. We also will develop lesson plans for the master's course after this training, actually this workshop for course from end of March, early April. And also we are developing, designing operational plans and management structure for both courses. And as I mentioned, so training of lecturers for the certificate course will take place from 9 to 12 March. This is very important because one challenge we have is about lack of lecturers to teach monitoring and evaluation. I'm sure that this is true for many countries. As part of the consortium, also consortium of MNE, we just launched before this session. Also, we discuss about this challenge. This is a challenge for many countries. So the monitoring and evaluation unit, which is the first academic unit in any university in Sri Lanka, will take care of all these academic courses. And the other important thing I want to mention is about Center for Evaluation at the same university, University of Sri Javardhanapura. This was also established in 2016, which is the first ever evaluation center in an university in Sri Lanka. I don't see many such centers in our region as well. I must say, actually, we got the first idea when Professor Reinhard Stockmann visited Sri Lanka in early 2017. I see Professor Stockmann is in the audience today. Thank you, Professor, because at the University of Saarland, Germany, they have Center for Evaluation. And he visited and also shared their experience and also about academic courses. So this is the start for us also to initiate or launch Center for Evaluation. And our mission and vision mentioned here. As part of the center, we developed training modules on MNE. One is for 1 day, 3 days, and 5 days. This was developed by an consultant. Also, based on these training courses, we provided training to Ministry of Health, especially directors, as well as doctors who are managing projects. Actually, the Ministry of Health paid the center. That was an income at that time, but we did not continue due to, again, the lack of resource persons. So again, we have that challenge here. And also the center joined with Sri Lanka Evaluation Association for monthly webinars on evaluation. Already 27 webinars conducted, and develop a training manual on project evaluation that it was printed with support from USAID SDCAP project, and also practitioner's guide for postgraduate diploma in monitoring and evaluation. Sorry. As I mentioned, for the diploma course, postgraduate diploma course, we have developed the practitioner's guide, which is also printed and available. So this is a resource guide. And second thing I want to mention is about the center, not only academic courses, also addressing needs of young and emerging evaluators. Together with the Sri Lanka Evaluation Association, there were 2 training programs conducted, basically on career development in monitoring and evaluation, to increase their knowledge and skills on monitoring and evaluation. And also there was a training program on PRA, Participatory Rural Appraisal, and PLA for young emerging evaluators. And not only young and emerging evaluators, the center together with Sri Lanka Evaluation Association, as well as center itself, also conducted several training programs for public officials as well. One time with support from USAID SD GAP project in Sri Lanka, as well as with support from UNICEF. There were 3 regional training programs conducted in different provinces, and 4-day residential training last year actually for these officials. I will not go into details due to time. And one last point, actually University of Sri Jayewardenepura, Sri Lanka, and the Parliament of Sri Lanka, Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation Sri Lanka, won American Evaluation Association Advocacy and Use Award in 2019. This was presented to the Parliament and the University at the Parliament of Sri Lanka. This was because of the work done by the Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation in Sri Lanka together with the University to build the capacity of public officials, young evaluators as well. And the other important thing I want to mention is that Parliament of Sri Lanka and University Grants Commission of Sri Lanka signed an MOU to have cooperation between 2 bodies, Parliament and the University Grants Commission, to share research information from universities. Now, PhD students generate a lot of information through their thesis and some other research at the university system. These are rarely used. So the idea is that parliamentarians, as advocates, policymakers, they need evidence. Where do they find evidence? Because in many of our countries, less number of evaluations happening. So the idea is that at least one source is that these academic surveys and maybe some evaluations as well in academic institutions to get information, evidence from academic research. So this is why the Parliament and the University Grants Commission signed this agreement, and it is still to fully operationalize. But this is, I think, a very important step Parliament and the University Grants Commission took. So with that note, let me finish here. Thank you very much. And I had to rush because of the time limitation, but I am happy to answer any question if you have.
Thank you, Asela, for very impressive, I would say, the range of activities and the, that the center is involved. It's not only in the classroom-based teaching, but I think the involvement in the policy and the practice is what I think other universities in the center, they need to probably take a clue from what the Center for Evaluation at the University of Sri Jayewardenepura is doing. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead now. There is a time for question and answer. There are already some questions there in the chat box. I'll just go one by one and then invite the panelists to answer them if they have a specific mention. Otherwise, any of the panelists can pick it up. So the first question was posed by Senaj Rashid to Professor Menon. Are there any M&E programs currently in institutes across India in the world? Professor Menon, if the question that has come from Senaj Rashid.
Yes, I saw the question.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I'm not aware of outside India very much, except what we can get from the internet. But from in India, there are a few institutions which are known to have programs in or courses in MND. IIM Calcutta has got a project management advanced program in strategy management, project management, in which I think this MND is a very major component. In the National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj in Hyderabad, Center for Planning, and they have the School of Public Policy and Good Governance. There's a Center for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. They run certificate programs in this area. The Public Health Foundation of India run e-courses in MND for of health programs, particularly the focus is on health programs. Then the Applied Manpower Research Institute in Delhi, they have certificate programs in MND. Then of course there are, as was mentioned by many people, there are rural development courses such as the one in Irma itself, or social work programs and other kinds. Some management courses themselves have got MND component in it. But as far as I know, there is no master's program in MND as yet, and I also don't see any doctoral program in MND. So, in fact, that was what I would have looked at more keenly, because that would be the nursery for a new discipline in the doctoral programs.
Thank you, Professor Menon. Thank you. Next question has come from Denise to Professor Yoko. Professor Yoko, if you can share the handbook on program evaluation published by JES in 2020, that's what Denise was asking.
So if I can, I would like to, but it's written in English, not in English, but it's written in Japanese. So I'm going to ask if they have any plan to translate it into English, but so far only in Japanese. Sorry for that.
So, Professor Ishida, is there any software which can actually translate from Japanese to English?
Yeah.
Nowadays, a lot of softwares are available, probably.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
I think Mr. Reinhardt wants to say something to I don't know that, because
yes, Mr. Reinhardt. Yes, please go ahead, Professor Stockholm.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the chance to say something. So first of all, thank you very much for all these presentations. And for me, from Germany, it was very impressive to see what's going on in Asia. And I just would like to inform you that that APEA and IPDET, you may know IPDET, it's part of GEI, the Global Evaluation Initiative of the World Bank, that we will start an initiative in the next weeks where we want to form a network of all universities that are offering academic courses. It doesn't matter on which level. But what we noticed worldwide is that there are a lot of courses, especially online courses, and so on. But actually, nobody knows about the quality of such courses. So as a consumer, if you want to take part in such a course and pay money for it, actually, you do not really know very much about the quality. So the objective of our network should be to develop standards or standards for academic courses in the field of evaluation. And I have done a similar work together with Latin American universities. So we formed a university cooperation, which is working now for more than 10 years. And one of our tasks was exactly this, the development of standards for the academic training courses in the field of evaluation. And there are some standards. For example, the German Evaluation Society has developed such standards, but there are also others from Australia and so on. So what we have done is we analyzed these standards, and then we have had a look if they are appropriate for the Latin American situation. And we would like to do a similar thing here in Asia to say, okay, what could be the standards to be more clear? What could you expect from a training course in evaluation? Which qualifications will be taught, which skills? And we have heard it from Mr. Deepak, how complex this is. And I think it gets more and more complex because evaluations, we have this heard yesterday in this transformation session, that actually the society or politics do expect more and more from the evaluators to help them to generate evidences to use that for parliaments, for the governance, and so on. So I think that is really a very serious problem, and I just would like to inform you about that. Asela is our partner, so he could also inform you about this initiative, and we would be very happy if universities offering such programs will join our network, and then I think we are very open, yeah, so we can discuss all different issues you are interested in, and then we would like to form such a network of universities then to work together and as one task to develop such standards for the education in evaluation. Thank you for listening. Thank you that you have given me the time to do this.
No, thank you very much.
Announcement. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think it's very interesting and very encouraging initiative that you have taken, and I'm sure a lot of us are really interested in joining this initiative. So Asela, I think will probably from our side will get in touch with you in this regard. Thank you. Next question came from Feroz. I think again to Professor Ishida. Is there any master degree?
Yeah, as far as I know, there is no master degree in monitoring and evaluation in Japan at this moment, right? Okay. So I'm not quite sure either that if there is any university which is planning to start it. So that's what I can answer now.
Okay, thank you. Next question comes from Sonam. Curious to know if the job prospects improves after many professional training certificates. It's not addressed to anyone, but maybe any one of you, Mr. Deepak, you can also take it up. If there are job prospects improves after somebody has taken a professional training certificate on M&E.
Yeah, definitely. The job prospects are there with government departments. If you are working in M&E, right now, if you speak about NRLM itself, right now we have around close to 50 professionals working with us in M&E domain right now. And in fact, we have just set up an laboratory, Poverty Action Research Observatory, in collaboration with IRMA, where we're looking for few researchers who would be there. We are already working with few interns and research associates who are there with us. So job prospects are there, and the career growth is also high. We in fact also have engaged services of an TSO, Technical Support Organization, Oxford Policy Management Limited, where another 6 to 7 persons are there who are sitting there. A lot of programs now require a kind of rigorous evaluations, and in dearth of good manpower, we are not able to design such kind of a programs on time. So there's a different kind of a challenge that we are facing right now, because most of the time working in a government setup, you are already engaged in different kinds of work. But true researchers, we are really dearth of getting true researchers. Definitely. So there is a scope with all the government schemes now.
Thank you. I think the next question is almost also similar, where Senaj is asking what are the career opportunities in the public sector for fresh graduates passionate about M&E. And one thing that I can contribute from my side, at least in India, we have a concept of young professionals, YPs. So, with the government, with Niti Aayog, with the state government, they can tell a lot about, because even Jharkhand state government also, they recruit young professionals. So I think probably one of the emerging area for career opportunities for the fresh graduate is this. But I invite all the panelists if you have any insights on this. Anyone can take this up. What are the career opportunities in the Asela? Can you, if you're there, can you share what happens to your PG diploma program down M&E, the graduates, what they do, where they go?
Sorry, Shamji, can you repeat it?
Yeah, the question was, what are the career opportunities in the public sector for fresh graduate passionate about M&E? So I was thinking, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, this is actually not an isolated area or isolated question, because the reason is that now this is related to the MNE cadre also. Now in Sri Lanka, we don't have MNE cadre at the public level. But of course, with NGOs, UN organizations, and some other private sector also, we have MNE cadre. Can be evaluation officers or monitoring and evaluation specialists or evaluation managers, like that. But because now, as you know, especially in Asia, or particularly in South Asia, people look at the job market, and it is natural as well, and apply for jobs, or even focus their education accordingly. Now, planning specialists are working on, or planning specialists have the task of monitoring and evaluation actually at the government level. So that's why even for the monitoring and evaluation process, we see there is bigger demand from people who are working in the NGO sector and United Nations organizations, agencies in Sri Lanka, and from the public sector, mainly doctors, because they definitely have to address some of the many functions, but not mainly from the planning or other public sector people. So I think this is very much, we have thought about this very much related to this, because we know that there will be a big demand for courses as well if there is cadre within the public sector. But now answering the question specifically, of course, now people who followed the courses, the postgraduate diploma course, they confirm that they got better jobs after the course, because they have postgraduate diploma in monitoring and evaluation. Some people who were working for national level NGOs got jobs at UN agencies. And we also get a lot of requests for reference and all from these students or applicants for jobs, and that we get a sense that of course there are better prospects after the course. This is what I would conclude very quickly.
Yeah, thank you, Ashila. I think in particularly in South Asia, universities traditionally they were not open for the placements and all. I mean, they were the center of education, and people have to go out of the university and search job. But I think the things are changing now. Most universities are offering now placements, so I'm sure there are a lot of prospects for the new graduates. Next question is from Senaj. Why it is that the results of evaluation are seldom used for reformulating interventions for their better reach or impact? It's not addressed to any specific panelist, but I guess Professor Yoko or Mr. Deepak, you can, because you are working in government sector, you can Professor Yoko, any of you can take it up.
Okay. So, for example, now I'm involved in one of the evaluation conducted by Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They are now conducting the policy evaluation in the education sector, ODA, the Official Development Assistance Policy evaluation in education sector. But while we are doing this evaluation, but they are already preparing their next policy, the planning. I mean, the timeliness. I mean, the evaluation takes some time to conclude. I mean, to prepare the report and to submit. But the at least for the planning or policy preparation procedures, it also takes time, right? They need some time to be approved. So always the feedback from the evaluation cannot be reflected most of the time to the next coming policies or the midterm plans. That is the situation in Japan.
Thank you. Anyone? Deepak, would you like to contribute here?
Yes. So it has rightly been said that many of these learnings definitely are not feeded back into the next policy design. One issue that Professor Yoko rightly said, that's about timing. Another, by design, I think when you implement a program, if some provision for action researches are already inbuilt in the design, program design itself, then in due course of program implementation only, you start getting the learnings. So instead of waiting for the end-term evaluation, let's have a kind of an special arms or special areas created where we are doing action research projects. We are also we should be creating few pilots. So let's not only run the program only one hypothesis. If we have some hypotheses also that are parallelly tested, so by the time the bigger program or the universal program gets concludes, you will have some pilots that are emerging. The learnings from these pilots, they start emerging. And since these are part of the natural program, it helps in rebuilding or redesigning the new program. In NRLM, we are doing so. So what we have done is we are inducing few initiatives in the program and trying to learn it through an RCT model, because there are some components in NRLM which has been introduced in health, which is not the core program of NRLM. It's about a livelihood program, but we are also working on health. We are working with some specialized groups of people. So some kind of special arms have been developed, and these learnings keep on coming. So that starts feeding into the new program much before the waiting for the evaluation to come. So that can be one way out. There could be other solutions also. I'm not very sure about, but this is one solution that we can think of.
Thank you. We have a last question from Janvi. Are there any studies about the impact of impact evaluations on subsequent planning? So, yes, anyone? I mean,
it's in some sense related to the previous question, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
See, the problem, my limited understanding, again, from basically only in this part of the world, and that too in education sector. I find that, public policy spaces are usually, there is very little continuity. It's very episodic. So it changes with the changes in polity, and the political changes, etc., affect that. And then, so there is cumulative building up of an effort is hardly seen. And in states like the province where I at the moment work, where every 5 years there's a political change, there's a different political formation and power, we find that it's a bit like, it's as though you have to reformat your hard disk every 5 years. You start from first principles once again. So it's a bit of a partly posturing, and partly also a lack of continuity and stability in the project structures, because project structures keep changing with the bureaucratic transfers and so on and so forth. And this is particularly so in public spaces, in sectors like education.
Thank you, Professor Menon. I think we are on time. There are no more questions. So let me just summarize and come up with key points that have emerged in this panel discussion. Starting from Professor Menon, I think what the important message that Professor Menon tried giving from his rich experience in the university administration, that there are practicalities, there are strategies that need to be built in, and putting these two together, we need to have a strong planning, and that will give some entry points to really work with the universities, which are mostly working as a gatekeeper. So strong advocacy is needed to convert them from gatekeeper to facilitator, and start working on the courses that are of the need today. And I think it's particularly the 6th question that, sir, you posed are very important for the institutions and also the consortium who wants to engage with the institution in initiating new courses on MNE. So thank you very much for the perspective that you have given from your experience. Professor Yoko definitely provided a snapshot about that there are institutions who wants to engage with this emerging area. There are academic institutions who would like to initiate, start courses on MNE, but definitely they need support, and that support ranges from, not only the financial support, but for the curriculum, resources, human resource, experts. I think that gap is also there. So if they want to really initiate a course, where should they go for the resources, including the financial and human resource and academic resource? And I think one of the insight that Professor Yoko shared, that the role of Japanese Evaluation Society universities in terms of the MOU that they have got into. And I'm sure, it's a practice which even Sri Lankan Sylvia is also doing. So I think many, WOPE, they need to learn from these kinds of practices and engage with the education sector and the institutions and the regulatory bodies in order to convince them, to initiate courses on M&E. Third presentation, Mr. Deepak, I think very rich presentation from the user perspective, and quite a lot messages that came across from this presentation. One was, the one was, okay, so it's not only the HQ-based or headquarter-based monitoring that is needed, that is important, but then you need to have a community monitor who can take real-time decisions, particularly, when there are thousands of monitors working, they don't need to wait for the data to go to the higher level, and then the analysis comes and then they get the action point. They need to make the decision right away. So I think the shift from this HQ-based to the community-based monitoring system is a prominent shift that Mr. Deepak highlighted. He also talks about the key attribute that he as a user need from those evaluators, the new young evaluators. And he said not the skill that is needed, but even ability to set and reset is also important. And that's where I think he tried hinting at that it's not all about the courses and software that are taught, but also the attitude in this new and young evaluator about the evaluation is also very important, that should be inculcated. Mr. Asela, the fourth presentation, I think, has presented a very strong case study, I would say, where the Center for Evaluation is not only engaging in a classroom-based teaching, but there are two more pillars. One side engaging with the policy, parliamentarians, and MOU with the UGC, University Grant Commission, and other regulatory bodies. Another side, they are engaging with the young evaluators and practice-oriented role that the center is taking. So basically, there's a three-arm. One is a classroom, another is a policy, another is a practice. I think is a good case study for the evaluation societies as well as the education institutes to really learn from. So there are so many takeaways. Thank you so much for this rich discussion that we had, and I'm sure many of us have a lot of things which we have learned, and we will take up and we'll definitely implement wherever we are working. So thank you very much. Now I hand over to Navesh for the vote of thanks. Over to you, Navesh.
Wow, what a session. It's extremely enriching. Thanks everyone, and especially all the participants who've joined in today for this extremely participatory session, with all the questions hopefully have been answered. And yes, thanks to all the panelists, Professor Sham Menon, Professor Yoko Ishida, Deepak Upadhyay, Asela Kalugampitya. So thanks to all your contributions. I've been enriched quite a lot. I'm sure all the participants have been. And also, of course, thanks to Dr. Sham Singh for chairing this session, for summarizing it for everyone. And yeah, thanks again, Dr. Sham Singh. I would also like to thank my friends and colleagues in APA and Evaluation Community of India, who've really worked tirelessly for getting this done, and to all the supporting organizations who have been a real support for all of us. Also, finally, the technical team who have ensured that this session has been glitch-free and we are all able to connect smoothly over this. Thank you so much. Wish you the best of health.